transfer portal buzzing left and right. Let's hit some of the highlights that we've seen since we were last with you in the portal. Let's begin with sort of a broader topic where I've got a question. What is more concerning, the number of notable players from the USC Trojans entering the transfer portal, or other USC players retweeting the news with "smart man" as the caption?
That's by far worse.
Yes,
it's not great.
What is going on with the Trojans right now? And we'll get to Dabo in a little bit too. I mean, there's a lot of just sort of big picture portal stuff, maybe even more so than the individual moves, but good gravy. I mean, should we be concerned? Are these players going to go back to USC? Are they just negotiating to get better deals? Like, what is Bud get? What do you think?
I mean, like, some of these guys did not play as well as USC had hoped they would play.
Fair.
Right? So if they think they can get a lot more money elsewhere, then they should probably go. But we talked about USC's NIL stuff here for quite a while, like, maybe a certain level of promises and a certain level of delivery, and not always having those things be the same level. So maybe there's some of that going on. I don't actually know exactly what's going on here, but it doesn't seem like USC is positioning itself to go from a team that played at a pretty good level this year and failed to win on the scoreboard. And I know people are going to laugh at that, but like we know there's a certain level of, like, your rating is more predictive going into the next year than your record, assuming that the roster remains somewhat similar, which of course right now it is not remaining all that similar. But they're losing like starters off this team who played not amazingly, but at least decently. And it makes me wonder, like, what level of support does Lincoln Riley have there in terms of going above and beyond maybe what your house settlement revenue sharing money is going to be.
Yeah, power rating wise, this is like a top 20 team.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like they had a decent nucleus. They failed to win some like quite a few close games. They had an extremely difficult schedule. It was not that unforeseeable. We talked about this. Like, there are scenarios in which they could have missed a bowl game if things did not go well for them, given the difficulty of the schedule.
You want reckless speculation with no information, but we'll just make crap
No
up.
rec here.
Yeah.
Just, yes.
Yeah.
NFL coaching carousel starting to heat up. Just saying, maybe Lincoln's got his eyes on the NFL. I don't know. Job could be opening in Dallas. Bears have an opening with his former QB. I'm just saying, maybe players are catching wind. I don't think that's the case at all. I think USC's NIL program is probably more messed up than this is anything else, and dudes are trying to get paid.
Well, in that case, Lincoln Riley might just be looking around and saying, like, okay.
He seems like a prime candidate to take the Mike Norvell, Brian Kelly approach. Hey, let's give back some money.
Voluntarily.
Yeah, like I think it's a really smart thing to do, and I'm surprised. I bet more coaches do it when you start catching some heat, but also when you start losing some players because you can't afford it. Say, well, hold on a second. I know it takes players to win. Let me give some of my salary to keep those players here, so I can get new players that are going to help me win. It is like, this is going to be a trend, I think, especially coaches that are borderline hot seat, kind of need to give some goodwill to the fan base, garner some fan support back on their side, because it does play really well.
Do you guys think that this will be a trend of like, are we seeing coaching salaries done now, or like, is it going to stop rising?
Maybe, but it's just the history of the world suggests that salaries very rarely decrease.
Totally.
Possibly. I mean, Danny, I think the most important thing you said about both Brian Kelly and Mike Norvell and then Lincoln is they're on the hot seat. You don't see many coaches who are in the playoff right now who are out there like, you know what? I'm going to give some money back. I just feel like I'm being a nice guy. I want to help out my players. It's like, no, please don't fire me here. We'll give some money back, and the buyout gets a little cheaper.
What did Calhoun say? Not a dime?
Yeah,
exactly. Not a dime.
Yeah, there we go.
Great quote.
Check your facts.
Check your facts.
Yeah, the the level of sacrifice that you get from Kirby Smart is he's willing to sacrifice 5 hours to go play Augusta National with a booster, make some time in his schedule.
Has Damian told that story about the first golfing experience yet?
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't want to tell his story if he hasn't, but like it's
hilarious.
Yeah.
If not, he should.
Well, we'll get Damian on like a summer show, and we'll get him to tell.
We're running it back Saturday, by the way.
Full
together Saturday pregame show.
Okay, nice,
dude.
Love that. Not 3 hours though, right?
I'd hope not. I don't think so. I think it's. Well, Damian actually texted me and said, "How long do you think it is?" I said 2 hours max, which is probably my guess. Might
45 minutes per game.
You're going, surprise, Danny. You're doing the FCS playoff breakdown. Bud, is Oklahoma going to be able to land Mateer, or is a late charge going to land it? What?
I think OU gets it done.
Okay.
But also, I mean, we had Eric Rivers on, the popular FIU receiver in the portal. I was filling in for Andrew Ivins, who's a new dad. Congrats, Ivins. With Coop Show on Monday on CBS Sports Network, and I asked him, I was like, "Hey, like you mentioned, it's really important who's going to throw you the ball." I was like, "Who? You just visited Miami. Like, who's going to be throwing the ball for Miami?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know yet. Want to find out." So maybe there's some incentive there for the Canes to pay up.
I will say I don't normally get intel on this stuff, but I heard from people at 2 different Power 4 programs who are not Oklahoma who are fairly convinced John Mateer is going to Oklahoma.
They need to get it done fast, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is because I agree with you, but if Miami is desperate and running in and just loading up the money cannon, speaking of the money cannon, LSU,
I do think Miami is loading up that money cannon for certain prospects, though. We'll see if that comes. But the rumors on that are pretty hot. Like they're
high school prospects or guys.
No, like transfer guys.
Maybe even guys that aren't in the portal yet, Chip.
Ooh,
could be.
Arch Manning to
Miami. Good God.
That'd be great for the show. Okay, so LSU lost out on Bryce Underwood, but they are reallocating funds. But what do you make of what the Tigers have been able to do in terms of picking up some big portal wins?
So I would say better late than never. I mean, this is something that we criticized them pretty hard for throughout the offseason. Like, okay, you guys are telling me you're devoting all this money to high school, but to me, you have a bit of like a win now window with the offensive line LSU had with the receiving core, which was actually not as good as I thought it was going to be. But I thought Nussmeier, with what everything was around him, played pretty well. And I was like, this is kind of, you need to push some chips in, get a little better defensive line, a little better DB depth, and maybe you can make a playoff. They're like, what, 1 win away from making the playoffs this year, basically?
Yeah.
And maybe they don't collapse if they had some better depth there. But they've done a really nice job with this, actually. Like, LSU is clearly spending, and they needed to. And, again, better late than never, but also it does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity the last couple of years to screw up that offensive line with Nuss, and then prior to that offensive line with Jaden Daniels.
Who else have we? What are some of the other moves that of note, or other movers and shakers that we've got in the portal scene?
Ole Miss is making a lot of noise. They also are forcing a lot of teams to pony up, big cash to keep people. That had Bama Twitter like all in a tizzy this morning about how they're having to overpay for Ryan Williams. I'm like, is there a number that you could actually overpay for Ryan Williams? I don't think so. Like, just pay the kid. He's a pretty big difference maker, obviously. But that one's been a pretty big one. Auburn getting involved with a number of the top receiver prospects. Singleton, I know, is somebody they're pretty involved. Like, that could be
Georgia Tech wide receiver who's good.
Yeah. Like, people say he's going to command over $1 million, and like, he's really quick. So if you get Coleman and you get some other young guys there at Auburn to develop, and you get Singleton to there, we know they got Jackson Arnold, and they're probably going to take 2 quarterbacks. We knew this was going to be the Auburn all-in year, and that just kind of seems to be continuing.
They the thing that the coaches that I've talked to, the thing that's frustrating them the most is the fake numbers that are out there that come from various websites. They come from the agents, and they're just floated out there. And I think what drives them nuts is that sometimes other schools do fall for the fake numbers.
So, I mean, the good way to figure this out is put your number out there to the kid. And if he seriously isn't taking it, then you know what? The number may not be fake.
Right.
Is real estate the best like example for this? A house is worth what someone's willing to pay for it?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or art.
Tom's our art expert. So
what would you like to know?
In his robe.
the robe and the art.
I like to stare at my paintings while wearing my robe and smoking a cigar.
All right, Dabo Sweeney. We got ourselves
did it.
A transfer portal edition, and it ain't Bear Bryant's great grandson. It ain't glorified graduate assistant Hunter Johnson. It's an actual wide receiver who we think can come in and contribute to this offense and help build out a group that has had some injury issues, but certainly a lot of movement for players like for example, Bryant Wesco, first year with the program, incredibly talented, was able to have a big impact. There are other transfer portal targets who I know who have been on campus this week, while the staff is also simultaneously trying to prepare for the college football playoff first round game against Texas. Big game breakdown on that coming up in just a little bit. So what do we need to offer any new spin on this? Is Dabo going to get one? Is this going to be a gateway portal commitment? Then all of a sudden he's going to go crazy.
Floodgates are open.
Just to see how it feels.
Yeah, he hits it once and now he can't stop. I mean, what does this mean?
I do think that you're noticing a trend with who Dabo is willing to sign. Because last year, didn't he take a JUCO kid? Didn't he take somebody last year, but it was a JUCO, so it wasn't.
Well, he was hosting. They were hosting a couple FCS offensive linemen, and they didn't land them. And so that one was where it was like, oh gosh.
So I do think that Dabo, the type of player that he would want, is somebody who's been developed, who's looking for that next step, not somebody who left their other equal team. You know what I'm saying? Like Dabo is such, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want somebody who just left for, just for the payday when he was already at a Power 4 school. But if I see a player who's just, somebody looking for that next step, who's going to buy into what we're selling, and we're going to give him that opportunity, I think it makes a lot of sense for him culturally, and he kind of sticks to his principle of, I don't like transfer portal guys.
So like somebody from Illinois State or maybe Purdue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe Purdue. Maybe a player from Purdue.
They are pushing for that Will Helk kid from Purdue, the defensive end.
The defensive end, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You are a 6'6", 275 pounds defensive end with some good pass rush skills. Yeah, we could be interested in providing that incredible step up. He's treating Purdue like Make-A-Wish. That's disappointing.
Most schools are right now because they got a lot of decent players that are in the portal. But I do think there is some comfort food aspect to this, regardless of the player coming from Illinois State. It's that it's a 6'5", 205-pound receiver. You know how much Dabo loves those really tall X receivers. He probably can only run in a straight line. He has to come to a complete stop to turn left or right. But damn it, Clemson wants him.
They would have the best basketball team ever.
Dude, yeah, those pickup games for Clemson football got to be pretty good.
What do you make of this, bud?
Have we heard Dabo talk about this yet?
Not yet.
No.
That's what I'm waiting on. Like, how do we justify it? Like, hey, I transferred from being a walk-on to a scholarship player, maybe.
I was thinking that Mr. Walk-On at Alabama would definitely love being able to like hand out these Willy Wonka tickets, to all these players for the step up into the chocolate factory with the slide. I could. The other thing, but that I was thinking about,
and then there's also like, hey, I'm going to private chat this. I'm not going to get in trouble.
Yeah, I think that what Dabo will say, he will circle back and say, I told y'all I wasn't against the portal. I just didn't have the room on the roster, and now he's going to say, we've got the room on the roster, so we're using the portal. I think that that's the way that it goes.
I'll say it if you don't.
I just going to say, like, Jesus transferred out of the tomb after 3 days, right? Like if he can.
You know who else spent 3 days in the transfer portal?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So I think that will be the explanation. He will say, I'm all about players being able to, take ownership of their career and find better opportunities. We always had a full roster, didn't have room for him. So
Yeah.
He won't say things have changed. I think things have changed. So that's my guess here, but we'll see.
I thought they were going to change last year, and I was wrong.
So. Any other portal additions or portal movement?
The Wazoo offensive tackle, somebody people want a lot. Famoe. So USC, Nebraska and LSU they're trying to look at.
Who just
people saying that Dabo's tried to use the transfer portal for 3 off seasons. That's I just don't buy that.
That's what I see. I think that's what's going to be his take. We haven't found somebody we liked yet. We finally did. I think that might be his take.
Tennessee just got Wendell Moe from Arizona. I think that's a good pickup for them. I think that's a good player. He's not like a superstar kind of first 2 or 3 days NFL draft player, but he's a good guy to have on your offensive line.
You notice how Georgia's mentioned for like every single receiver out there, mentioned for Singleton, mentioned for Branch, mentioned for Key.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the one position they can't seem to get right out of high school.
They're not exactly a wide receiver.
No, they've had some guys drafted who have played okay, like Pickens, and has sort of had some moments.
But that's like your individual. Like I remember when AJ Green was there, he just took up so much oxygen.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like this individual freak superstar wide receiver talent. So it's not as though they are absent of having those kind of game changers, but it's not like some of these other schools where you can just be like, oh my God, they had him and him and him and him. The position group photo at an Alabama or an LSU where it's just, Pro Bowl, Pro Bowl, Pro Bowl, Pro Bowl. There's like up and down the list.
This is big bad lad erasure.
Yet he can change that. I'm
just saying.
Okay.
Just saying.
Bama's losing a lot of guys. I'm not really sure how many super important guys, but certainly some depth. So this is kind of like DeBoer's chance to kind of remake it in his image, if you will, like what he actually wants it to look like.
Well, so that's another one where you got to think that they are targeting some playoff rosters.
Yeah. So Blake in the chat says he offered Austin Blosky, Keelan Rutledge, and Alan Herron just last year. Yeah. You could say like, hey, we're offering these players, but if you're not like seriously investing in making them come to your school, then that's not really trying, Like if I go to the gym and just sit in my truck, like you actually, Clemson was not in the game last year, transfer portal wise.
They offered him pizza parties. So
they
offering him $500,000.
Got to have some sprinkles for the ice cream party, right?